Hi everyone, and happy return. We appreciate you being here. We're going to tell you a brand new story today, so let's get started. It's odd to look back on everything now and realize how softly and swiftly it all fell apart. I had been married to Kathy for 12 years. I believed we were strong. Yes, my work was hard, particularly after Dad died away and I had to take over the construction company, but I always assumed Kathy would understand. We had established a life together, had Maria, and I believed I was taking good care of them both, despite the long hours and frequent travel. I was in error. That day I unexpectedly returned home early and discovered that my life had changed from what I had assumed. Kathy wasn't only lying. She was having regular affairs with Ben, her boss. Perhaps it was made worse in some way by the fact that we had the same name, as if a different version of myself were taking my place. But the shock factor was insignificant. I was so preoccupied with my job that I wasn't prepared for the shock when I learned the truth. Perhaps I had anticipated it but was unwilling to acknowledge it. The loss of Maria was more devastating. The prenuptial agreement allowed for a quicker and more amicable divorce than most. I kept the business, the legacy my father gave me, and my possessions. But my daughter was taken away from me. That was the actual cost I incurred. Kathy also got married to Ben, the other one, and established a new life for themselves. Although they weren't wealthy by my standards, they managed to get by. Things were cordial between us for a time until Kathy decided she wanted to cut the last link that kept me from Maria. Maria's calendar became so packed with all the activities she could think of. It became difficult for me to spend time with her without having to drag her out of something. And each time I did, Kathy would become mad at me, accusing me of being egotistical and neglecting Maria's future. I battled for some time. I kept trying to visit her so we could stay in touch, but finally I gave up. I could not continue to be Kathy's antagonist. I gave up as a result. I placed the ball in Kathy's court by sending a letter via my lawyer. I informed her that, although I wouldn't be the one to start it anymore, I would still be ready for visitation anytime they phoned. I didn't want to keep battling for my 4 days with Maria each month, but I still wanted them. And finally into absolutely nothing. I've only seen Maria a few times in the past 4 years. Now that she's grown up and turned 18, I have ceased to pay child support. It felt unnecessary, but I didn't have to. She was done making decisions. Maria showed no desire in getting close to me. She was always and forever her mother's daughter. That was long before she'd written me off. When she got engaged, I didn't even know the young man's name until the wedding invitations came in the mail, and none of her acquaintances knew who I was. As I stood at the door, I looked at Maria as though I hadn't seen her in a long time, which, in all honesty, I hadn't. Though she appeared more mature and different, I could still make out hints of the younger girl I knew. For an instant, I experienced a peculiar blend of resentment and joy as she extended the invitation, a wedding card with her name. My daughter got married, but the happiness was short-lived. I promised to be there. Naturally, I would. I was still her father, in spite of everything. Her reaction, however, surprised me more when I inquired whether I was meant to lead her down the aisle. She remarked, somewhat casually and matter-of-factly, that she preferred her parents to walk her. Not her father, but her parents. I'm not even sure how I managed to hide it from my face, but it hurt so bad on the inside. Pops, that word. It was the ultimate affirmation that I had ceased to have any significant influence on her life. Her father, Ben, her mother's husband, was the one who played the part one had to give up. It was like a kick in the gut to hear it so nonchalantly, as if it were the most normal thing in the world, even if I suppose it was inevitable. I didn't dispute. How do I put it? I just gave her a nod, said I understood, and watched her go away. She wasn't purposely nasty about it. I doubt she really realized the damage it made to me. However, last night was everything from tranquil. I tossed and turned, living again that moment. Her dad wasn't going to be the one to lead her down the aisle. I made an effort to remind myself that I had taken my decisions and might have to deal with the fallout. That didn't, however, make things any simpler. Despite all of my efforts, my achievements, and the life I created following the divorce, it seemed as though I had failed at the one thing that really counted. And now, I had to acknowledge that my contribution to Maria's life had become only a name on an invitation, a faint recollection. I'll be there, but I'll be watching from the stands while another guy leads my daughter down the aisle, wondering how the hell things went so wrong. However, when I woke up the next morning, I made the decision to do something that I had never considered doing in the previous 10 years. To become a monster full of resentment. I cannot tell you that a very affluent guy can't usually get away with ruining the life of a less wealthy man if he sets his mind to do so, especially if he has nothing to lose. I contacted my attorney and requested that he form a business that would operate a network of flower shops within the following 7 days. Ben, the second, had a business, and I established a flurry of stores adjacent to every one he had. Additionally, I told him to maintain the flower pricing at exactly half of what Ben's business was charging. I informed him that by the middle of next week, I wanted every store open. I then gave my PR division head and the head of my interior decoration department a call and requested them to take action. I wanted the media blitzkrieg to be unheard of, and I wanted the stores to look spectacular. Next, I gave my chief of security division a call and instructed him to compile a groom's dossier within the next 24 hours. I requested the bank name where the child support checks were placed from my accountants. Ben probably had his business account with them as well. I learned after a few calls that Ben had taken out a sizable advance on his account only a few days before. Of course, it was to help my ex-daughter get married. That would imply that he would not be able to add any more funding to his company very soon. I gave my HR department a call and requested that they hire Ben's top workers at double their existing pay. Ben has a lot on his plate for the next 4 days. My buddy from Nevada was the name of the new firm, which was also registered with Nevada as its headquarters. No one could link the firm to me without doing a thorough investigation, something Ben would be too busy to perform. A decent young man with a massive college loan hanging over his head was the group to be. In addition to being a realtor, he had previously managed several of my building projects. My intention was to spare Maria's life. On the first day that my new stores opened, Ben was unbalanced. All of a sudden, he had fewer employees and, more significantly, fewer clients. Every newspaper ran an article on my business's launch, which attracted a prominent Hollywood star to each event, on page 3. 3 days into the game, things got out of hand. My former daughter and my ex-wife were waiting for me when I woke up. I saw that Maria, too, had a pretty depressing appearance. "What topic are you discussing?" I promised to attend the wedding. I didn't do anything to annoy Maria. I pretended to be ignorant, as I had no idea what she was talking about. "You slime suckers are aware of what I mean. Why did you put a chain of stores near to trash cans? Why do you only charge half of what it costs you to purchase flowers when you might charge more? Which stores are you referring to?" "The stores you opened under the name of your pal who isn't very excellent." "You didn't think I would recall the jerk, Steve. He practices orthodontics, and not a good one at that. After a decade of showing little concern, why are you now taking action?" Even though I knew the game was over, I hadn't broken any laws yet. I chose to flash my teeth. And why should you care about that? I'm free to start any kind of business I want and charge whatever pricing I choose. In actuality, my business is one of my charitable organizations, where I provide flowers to the general public at reduced prices so they may honor and express love to the people in their lives. Go ahead and find something unlawful in this. Maria said. Sue me her first words. This morning, Pop suffered a heart attack. Given the current course of events, he will cease operations within the upcoming month. Since you are wealthy, you have robbed him of everything. I detest you. How could you harm him in this way? You are aware that Mom and I rely on him for assistance. I turned to face her and told her that I had lost my anger. For the first time in years, I was experiencing sadness after all these years of hurt and quiet. Indeed said, "Tell me, how is this any different from what he did? Even though I have money and have taken away his business, why didn't you despise him as a child?" She snapped back. Pops has never done a bad thing in his whole life. No, in his entire life, he has never done anything negative. He was acting morally uprightly when he had an affair with my wife. You claim that I am taking away his company because I am wealthy and he is not. I didn't have time, but he did. And he exploited that to separate me from my wife and my daughter. What makes that different? Naturally, though, what I am doing is abhorrent. And he carried out the purpose for which sainthood was created. You claim that both you and your mother relied on him, and because I denied you that, you despise me. When my father passed away and more than 1,200 co-workers were staring at me, I relied on my wife, and he snatched her away from me. Do you not despise your father for it? Maria averted her gaze. Why now, 10 years later, are you bringing this up? Now Kathy was asking more nicely. I'm sick of playing the evil guy for no reason at all. I will definitely be a villain if that is how I am going to be portrayed. Rather than assuming you would do the best thing for Maria, I ought to have battled for her to the very end. When you refused to give me the opportunity to see my single source of joy, my daughter, I should have raised hell. Rather, I conceded and reasoned that it would be better if I did not ruin her upbringing by making things tough for you. This slime sucker who cut me ought to have been damaged by me so that he would be out on the streets and you would be forced to stay with me and take care of my Maria. You should have granted me complete custody of Maria when you refused to allow me to bring her along on that vacation to France. I stared at her with the hatred I was now feeling for her, even though it was my turn to spend the summer vacation with her. You never have time for me, Maria said. I was desperate for love. I eventually realized that you and Mom had divorced each other, and it was at that point that I accepted Pop as my father and began to ignore you. Mom warned me there may be legal ramifications if I refused to meet you, so I occasionally did. You would bring a lawsuit against her, she said. It was fear, not love, that brought me to you. I asked her to wait a moment while I made a call to my attorney. I requested that he transmit me the letter I had written to Kathy all those years ago. I received a faxed copy of the letter and the receipt bearing Kathy's signature in the following 15 minutes. If I did not have time for you, please read this and let me know. I also have recordings of my calls to your mom asking to meet with you, only to be turned down. There must be hundreds of these calls, including a handful in which you have impolitely requested that I not contact you regarding scheduling a time. Instead, that hurt and your mom. What went wrong on my end of all this? The one mistake I made was having to manage a firm when my father passed away, something I knew nothing about. Despite my lack of expertise, I took the risk since 1,200 employees relied on me to maintain the company's viability. Yes, I was gone from the two of you for a long period. Nonetheless, it was done to bring the money we required to survive home. There's no need for you, Maria, to be upset about it. I haven't given your mother any support in the previous 10 years, but I have made sure you attend the greatest school and college around and have access to all the luxuries you could ever want. Do you really believe I didn't know you were giving your parents a lot of your money? You handed them the money you took from me. That's accurate. It was pilfering. I handed you a credit card to use for purchases you made on campus, and you refused to see me the one time I was in town, even though you routinely purchased airline tickets for your parents to visit you with that card. What emotions do you suppose I had at the time? Even though I was furious, really furious, I didn't say anything because I wanted to please you and I gave you the card. You were pleased being close to your parents. So that's okay. Now I was boiling over with rage. Maria had read the letter and was staring at her mother with the same rage that had been aimed at me a while before. Maybe I shouldn't destroy your dad's, but I will. With the one thing I have that he has not, I shall defeat him. After all, with everything he possessed, he brought my world crumbling down. Your mom is more than welcome to marry me after divorcing the a-hole if she suddenly desires a wealthy spouse. I won't love her, but I will give her money and time. Yes, I do require company. What sort of individual do you believe I am? Take that, Kathy. The type of woman who, feeling dissatisfied in one area of her life, runs away from her spouse and has an affair with another guy. A man's role is to provide his wife with two things: money and time. You abandoned me when I brought money, not my time. He will be so impoverished in the next several days that he will be begging for cash to purchase a pot to urinate in. Thus, he won't offer you any cash or time. Can you tolerate it going forward? Is the person you love a cuck scumsucker, whose affection for a diligent guy who fathered your kid was higher than that of someone who had slept with a married woman? When Kathy eventually lost. She lost all will to fight. Maria suddenly spoke up. Are you able to let me move in with you, Dad? I refuse to return to live with those who deprived me of my father. I'll move into a motel and then look for housing if you won't let me move in. My marriage is obviously not going to work out. I refuse to go down the aisle in a marriage ceremony that is funded by the deception of two people. I'm not sure whether our relationship will last after this, but I'm hoping that he will still love me despite everything. Now Kathy was weeping aloud. Maria was staring at me, unsure of my choice, tears welling up in her eyes. Maria, if you want to move in right now, you can. You have stuff at your mom's that you probably want to bring. Bring them over immediately while I speak with your mother. I turned to Kathy when Maria gone. By now she had calmed down and appeared to be a complete idiot. At last she said something. Is your hatred of me that great? Have you given me any excuse not to? All I wanted for myself and my kid was a regular existence, or daughter as I put it. In your pursuit of normalcy, you failed to remember that it is abnormal for a parent to weep himself to sleep at night because his daughter believes he is a cold-blooded liar. You overlook the fact that a husband does not often go to sleep believing he has let his wife down. A husband walking in on his nude wife being cheated on by her employer is not typical. In your supposedly normal existence, where was the normal for me? I have not had a single meaningful relationship in 10 years because of how much you screwed me over. I suppose I was being so self-centered that I was blind to the harm I was doing to you. You continue to be self-centered and easy to get away with. There were 4 persons in the equation: Ben, Maria, you, and myself. Ben suffered a cardiac arrest. Maria recently lost all of her 10 years' worth of beliefs. You are stuck with a wealthy, unwell spouse who has little time for you, and I have been reduced to a sadist. It appears that you have been successful in taking 4 lives. I gave her a harsh look, but you only have this one chance to put Maria's needs first, if you can think of someone other than yourself. Anything to bring my child joy. To enable Maria to proceed with the marriage, I will cover all of the associated costs. All I ask is that you be out of town on the day of her nuptials. If you can do it, I will make things right for Maria. She started crying and nodded her head. I am ready to do anything for Maria. I should have felt lousy for being such in a hole, but I was just happy. I could see that the rest of her life was going to be miserable. I had always wanted to start a European branch, and there was a construction company in Germany up for sale. I was sure that Jake would be an ideal candidate for being my eyes and ears there. I've come this far, haven't I? Torn their lives apart piece by piece. Ben's gone. Took his life 5 years after Maria's wedding. I remember the news hitting me, but it barely registered. I felt worse when I lost the goldfish as a kid. Scraping by on food stamps after I got her fired from 3 jobs. She knows I'm not letting her off the hook, not after everything. And now she's in this pit. She knows there's no way out except one. From what I hear, she's saved just enough to buy a gun. A few more weeks, maybe she'll have enough for the bullet too. Then it's only a matter of time. I wonder if she thinks about it every night, about how much more of this she can take. And here I am wondering if I should stop. Should I be charitable? Should I let her live? If you can even call what she's doing living. Part of me knows I could if I wanted. I could back off, stop grinding her into the dirt. But the other part of me, it's still hungry, still feels like there's something left to take from her. I thought revenge would feel different. I thought once Ben was gone, once I'd watched Kathy's life fall apart, I'd feel something more than this. Satisfaction? Closure? I don't know. But what I do know is I've won. If that's what you call it, I've taken everything from her. And yet I still feel that bitterness sitting inside me. So should I stop? Should I let her buy that gun and put an end to it? Or should I finally let go? I've carried this hate for so long. I'm not sure what's left of me without it. Maybe I'm too far gone to stop. Or maybe letting go is the only way to find some peace for myself. But can I even do that after everything? I don't know. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.